Hello, the world of www. Hope all is going well. Last you saw the Calais behind me. I was telling you guys how the motor had said see you later because Dr. Rodney came and knocked at the front door, back door, side door, all the doors, and said he doesn't want to play games anymore. So that was a bit disappointing. I know that we said that we were going to sort of put this thing on the back burner, but an opportunity has come up for something, and I'm going to show you what that opportunity is. Also, you will notice now that my videos are going to look a little bit different. It's because I have now come into the wonderful world of GoPro. So yeah, that's that. So let me show you what is happening. That's what's happening. Let's have a look. Rightio, so this is it. This is a VT Commodore. I'm just going to go through and tell you a really quick backstory on this car. So this car used to belong to a good friend and customer of mine, also by the name of Jason, just to make things confusing. October last year, did a major service on this car. Basically major service, did brakes on it, tires, did crank angle sensor, cam angle sensor, DFI module and coil packs and stuff. Did report that it needs inlet manifold gaskets. And then about a month ago, the thing decided it didn't want to start anymore. So I went out and had a look at it. It was throwing a code for the crank angle sensor again, which was weird considering it had just been changed. Put another one on it, still wouldn't start, still had no spark. And we sort of just decided to leave it. So I picked up the car with the car trailer yesterday, brought it home, took the DFI module and the coil pack off the Calais and put it on here, and the thing did start and run. Took it for a quick drive and that was okay. Did sort of idle a little bit rough, but then it sort of came good. And now I'm going to start it this morning and it won't start again. So I've just checked it out, it's got no spark and it looks like it's fried that DFI module as well. So I have got a couple of DFI modules here. So I've got the one that I took off it yesterday, and I've got another spare one which I'm going to put on, but I don't want to try and start the car in case it fries it again. So this thing, even though it's a VT, has done quite low Ks. It's only done, if I can get in there, 192,000 Ks. So it's actually done less than the VY. I'll just show you that it doesn't start actually. So that's that. I'll actually just quickly show you a quick video of when we had it on the trailer yesterday and we did have it running, which you'll see right about now. Yeah, so that's that. So it was running, so we know that the motor in this thing's good. Now, for those of you that know a bit about Commodores, I know what you're going to think. And also, here's a quick school lesson. Yes, VT Commodores do have less power than VYs. So VTs have, I think, 148 kilowatts, whereas VXVY have 154, I believe, 153, thereabouts. So it's stuff all difference. The majority of the power difference comes from the ECU, because VX and VY did have a revised tune, but the inlet manifolds are also different. So as I said before, this thing does need inlet manifold gaskets quite badly, so we're going to put the inlet manifold off the Calais engine on here anyway. And the only other difference is the sump. So VT sumps hold, I think, 4.8 litres of oil. The VXVY hold about 5.5. Cat. Anyway, so I don't know if we'll change the sump. We probably should. The extra oil capacity would be good. But that's why VT service schedules are every 10,000 Ks and VX and VY are every 15. So that's that. So what I did yesterday, it looks like someone that knows a little something about nothing came in here. So literally spent about an hour and a half stripping this down yesterday. So got the engine mounts unbolted, obviously inlet manifolds off, water pumps off, got the front of the motor blown apart, power steering pump, alternator, all that stuff, all the wiring's off. So it's literally just bell housing bolts, and that's it really, and torque converter bolts, and then this motor's ready to come out. That motor's going to go to the tip. We'll then go through, and all of these parts that we've removed from the VY motor, I've already gone through and cleaned all of this up, all the mounting surfaces. So this is the inlet manifold that's got the manifolds, the plenum spacer and the bigger throttle body. So I've got the water pump off as well, that's all cleaned up. So all of that stuff is going to go onto this engine. Then what I'm going to do is, I'll fit all of that stuff while that engine's still in the car. Then we'll pull this motor out. This motor can go down to Jason's farm, Jason that works with me, and that car will be stored there because there are still plenty of good parts on that. And then yeah, that engine will go in here. So what we're going to start with is by stripping stuff off this engine that we don't need, getting it ready to be pulled out, and we'll start by going through and putting all of this stuff on. I've ordered another set of Mace Engineering lower inlet manifold gaskets for that, so they should be here today or tomorrow, but there's still plenty of other stuff I want to go on with. So yeah, all of these other bits will go on. So yeah, I guess we'll get into it. I'm not going to bother filming much of this because it's all stuff that you've already seen me do. So yeah, let's do it. Rightio, cool cats. This is where I am up to. So basically I thought I'd start at the bottom and work my way up. So yeah, obviously I've got the fan shroud and the cover off, just to sort of give myself a bit more room. Alright, so I've got the aircon compressor off, the idler pulley that sort of sits in there, and the post I've deleted because we're doing aircon delete obviously on the other car. Got the top engine mount nuts off, just sort of started going through and undoing some of the wiring for the stuff down low. I've got the oil pressure switch out and got this adapter one in with a new oil pressure switch and the sender for our oil pressure gauge, so that's done. Got some more wiring off the side of the engine, power steering pumps off. I've changed the water pump, that's probably the big ticket item of today. So got this one off, and that's the one off the VY that we replaced recently. I just had to go get a new gasket for it, so that's that. I was thinking about painting all these pulleys and stuff while they're all off, and then I thought, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm an adult, so I'm not doing that. Got the new idler pulley on there as well. We also replaced that with a brand newie on the Calais engine. So yeah, basically that's where I'm up to. So we'll just keep going over the course of the next few days, few weeks, whatever, or the next 20 minutes, odd, whatever, however long this video ends up being that you're currently watching, and just sort of go through and do it. That rocker cover is leaking onto the valley side of things, so I might throw rocker cover gaskets at it. I don't know. We'll figure it out together. But anyway, that's it for today. Alright, got a little bit more time now, so maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and see how long I can finish getting this thing pulled apart. I want to try and get everything off, and if we've got time I might start putting some stuff back together, like rocker covers in the manifold and stuff. Let's get into it. All right, I think I'm at the point where I'm ready to pop the manifold off. Got everything else sort of stripped apart. I already know that these manifold gaskets are going to be bad, well, because there was oil residue in the coolant, but also a lot of the bolts were like really milky, as I tried to show on the time lapse. But what I'm going to do before I pop the lid off, before I pop the manifold off, is I'm just going to go through and give it a bit of a degrease and sort of clean up a lot of this schmuck and stuff while it's all sort of pulled apart. So I'll just spray some degreaser and then hose it down. All right, got the manifold off, and as you can see, pretty bad failure of the inlet manifold gaskets. Sort of a similar situation to what we had on the Calais when we got it. This one's actually probably a little bit worse. So yeah, it's not great. So anyway, I'm gonna go through, get all this cleaned up. While this is like this, I'll pull the rocker covers off. I will throw a new pair of gaskets on them as well. And then we'll just start getting it all ready to go to get the VY manifold on. So there's the VT one. Just chilling. So yeah, anyway, we'll keep going. All right, well that's as pulled apart as it's gonna get. I've cleaned up the surfaces where the rocker cover gaskets seal. I want to put the rocker cover gaskets back on before I start cleaning up all inside here, just to minimize any schmuckage going into the top of the cylinder heads there. So that's sort of pulled apart as much as I can. I don't know if you saw on the time-lapse footage, but there was a bit of creamy residue in the tops of the rocker covers, and that just comes from those manifold gaskets being bad. So I've gone through and cleaned all of that out. So yeah, I'm going to go through and put the new gaskets in here, put a little silicone on them, throw them back on and prep it all up, and I'll just sort of show you once we're ready to put the manifold and all that back on. Not that one, the other one. Alrighty, so I've got the rocker covers back on with some new gaskets, and I've got all of this surface all cleaned up, ready for the inlet manifold, for the VY inlet manifold to go on. Now I've got a small confession to make. I have ordered some Ace Engineering gaskets. It's coming up to 2 weeks now actually since I ordered them, and they haven't turned up, so I've just run down the street and just grabbed these ones that they have in stock down there. There's nothing wrong with using the plastic ones. I mean, they did come from the factory obviously with the plastic ones, but they do perish over time. So I mean, this thing's not going to get driven a heck of a lot anyway, so for now these are going to be alright just to keep the project moving forward. So yeah, I'm just going to slap these guys in and get on with it. So same sort of deal as before when I did this in the last video. Just be frugal with your Celastic. Some people say not to put Celastic, but I always like to put a smear on there for a couple of reasons. It's good practice, and I like the word smear. I think it's funny to say. So anyway, we'll drop the VY manifold on there now, get that all buttoned up. Rightio, cool. So now that the manifold is on, we can actually go ahead and start putting a bunch of stuff back in. So sort of like the bracket for the throttle body can go on, the EGR pipe can go on, so the serpentine belt tensioner, the heater pipes can go in. I think that might be about it. But anyway, we'll just go through and put together what we can, as a lot of that stuff can be on the engine when the engine's removed. So the more we do now, the less we do later. Yeah guys, so I've just put on all that stuff that I said I was going to just a second ago. So that's sort of all sorted, and I think that is pretty much as far as I can go with this thing. Yeah, so either this weekend or next weekend we'll actually bring it in here and pull that motor out and keep going, but you'll probably see that right about now. And we're back, chaps and chapettes. So got the VT up on the hoist. Just dumping the oil. That's sort of the first port of call for now. So what we need to do is basically go through and take the, it may have a leaky rear main seal. Anyway, we'll worry about that later. We need to go through, take bell housing bolts off. Inside this cover, you can access the torque converter bolts. So we'll go through and take all that stuff off. We'll pull the starter motor out. We'll use the VY starter motor, as this starter motor is a bit funky. We'll take the exhaust bolts off the exhaust flanges. So, and we'll just start undoing some more wiring and stuff. So anyway, we'll just start going through and getting all that stuff done. Alrighty, so I think we're there. So got the starter motor out, got that big cover off from underneath here, got all the bell housing bolts and torque converter bolts off. So there's the starter motor there, and that's sort of that cover. VY is different, it doesn't have that big cover. I'll show you when we get the VY up on the hoist. All the bell housing bolts are off. You can actually see the bell housing is starting to separate from the back of the block a little bit, so it's just sort of sitting on the dowels. So we'll drop it down and put a jack underneath the trans. Yeah, got the engine mount nuts off. How I normally pull out motors on these is I just remove, so I remove all the nuts from the top of the engine mount, and then I normally just back off 2 of them on this side and leave the other 2 tight. But we're actually going to pinch the engine mounts out of these because these aren't even 10,000 Ks old, so we'll keep these engine mounts as spare. So yeah, got all the wiring and all that off. So I think it's just a matter of dropping it down now. Oh yeah, got the exhaust off too. So the exhaust is out of the way. So yeah, I think now it's just a matter of drop the thing down, put a jack underneath the transmission, connect the engine crane and yank this thing out. Ta-da! I actually did not forget to disconnect anything, so that's good. I just need to get like a block of wood or something to support the transmission. Tried to use a couple of big cable ties around the steering rack, but yeah, that did not work. Yeah, so that's that. Engine's over here. So we are going to need to swap the sump on this thing, I reckon, but we'll see. So anyway, so that's that. I've even put the bonnet back on, got my neighbour to come over and help me set that back on, so that's all good. So we can now push this thing out and get the Calais in. Do you know what time it is? It is not Jason o'clock. Cold. It is, it's Calais o'clock, actually. So VT's out, just sort of chilling there. So it's just gonna be the same thing again, just with a little bit less engine, because this one's half pulled apart. But what I will do is I'll lift it up and I'll show you the differences underneath. Alright, so I just wanted to show you the little difference here on the back of the VX and VY sump. So as you can see here, we've got that the sump is actually sort of molded to go down to the lower bell housing bolts, and it doesn't have that big steel cover that goes across the bottom of the bell housing, as it's all part of the sump. So that's sort of one of the differences. So I just wanted to show you that, but besides from that, it's all the same as pulling the other motor out. So yeah, let's just get into it and get this motor out. I won't bother showing you that again, because you've just seen it, so let's just do it. Well, howdy do. Another motor out. Cool, so that's done. It's literally here just hanging out. So what we're gonna do while it's sort of up on the crane like this, we've just put a lock on the ram just in case the thing wants to go down. So we're going to pull this sump off while it's up, figure out how to roll this thing over or whatever to get the sump off that and do the old swapperoonie. So yeah, we'll just get into that. Alrighty, so we have the sump off the VY's old motor and we're just having a little bit of a look inside it at the moment. You know that. So we've got stuff like that. But what is that? Ooh, that looks important. Might just have a feel of these bearing caps and just see if any of them are loose, and if one of them's loose I might pull something off, but anyway, we'll have a look at that shortly. I just wanted to get this thing rolled over and start swapping the sumps. Alright, so I've got this motor rolled over onto its side, having a bit of a nap. Jason is taking the sump off that, which is the VT motor. So I've just been sort of turning this motor over by hand and feeling all of the journals. So that one's not bad, that one's not bad, these two weren't bad. Number one, it's got a little bit of play, but number two, a little bit of Parkinson's going on. Alrighty, here's the differences in the two sumps. So that's the VT sump, small opening, not a lot of space sort of back there. And this is the VY one, much bigger opening, a lot more space at the back there. So yeah, that's that situation. So anyway, let's get these swapped over. Cool, new motor is ready to go. Got the VY sump on there, even put a new gasket on there. Where is it? So now we are just going to drop the old motor into the VT so we can get rid of this. So we're just going to carefully lower this in. Clear? There we go, that's installed. Mint. So now that's installed, we can get rid of this and start putting that, not that, that in there. Cool, so that's done. Now we can get rid of this. Cool beans, so motor is in and everything from down here that we can do is done. So engine mount nuts from under here are done. Just got the upper outers to go, the bottom nuts are on. All the bell housing bolts from down here are in. Got the torque converter bolts in, starter motor's wired. So exhaust is on. So yeah, I think that's as far as we can go. So we'll drop it down and we'll just keep going. Alright guys, so we've jumped pretty far ahead. It's only taken us sort of 40 minutes to get everything all back in and hooked up. So Jason's just putting the pipe on for the oil catch can. Besides from that, everything else is done. Literally everything's connected. Once he puts that on, we'll put some coolant in it. We'll put a new oil filter on it and put some oil in it. And we will come back for the first start. Okay, so we're a bit overconfident. We even put the bonnet back on, but she's filled up with coolant. She's got fresh oil in it. What I've done though is I've just unplugged the crank angle sensor because I want to crank the engine first and get a bit of oil pressure up. That will cause the engine light to come on. So what we'll do is we'll just crank it first, then we'll go through and do a code clear, and then we'll hit the key to try and start. So go ahead and crank, Jace. Keep going. Oil pressure gauge coming up yet? No. It's alright, keep going. Not yet. Not yet, it's got to fill up the oil filter. Crank. Beautiful, got oil pressure. Alright, go through and give this thing a scan. Do you just want to plug that crank angle sensor back in for us? Alrighty, so I'm happy with that. So now we'll go out. Lucky there's heaps of room. Go ahead and try and start.
Still got an engine.
That's fine. Start it. Much better. Drop it down a little bit so the back wheels are on the floor. The ABS is going nuts. Yep, thank you. Pull the handbrake up inside so I can lift it up and have a look. There you have it, guys. Alright, gonna go for a test drive. Gonna go drop that VT off as well. Man, it is hot. I really don't think this oil gauge is accurate, eh? Like, I really doubt this thing's got 70 psi of oil pressure. But that is like a $30 gauge. Anyway, let's go for a test drive. Alright, back home, I've just thrown the thing back up on the hoist, just to have a quick look over it, make sure there's no leaks, and everything is perfect. There's no leaks anywhere, everything's all looking really, really good. Everything's nice and dry. So I drove it out to Jason's folks' property. They're about sort of 15 minutes away. So yeah, drove it out there and then I took the long way home, and yeah, everything's fine. So it was a bit disappointing when this first happened, but now it seems we've got a relatively good engine. So yeah, we're happy. It's worked out well. Thanks always for watching, guys. If you like what you see, please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that bell as well. Really appreciate the support. Good to have this thing back up and running again, and now we can continue on where we left off. So I think you know what the next episode's going to be, judging from what I said in the previous video. But yeah, sort of we're happy that the thing's back up and running now, and we have got a solid motor. So thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, be safe, take care, be good.